There we go.
Ding, we're
Well,
live.
Hi, folks. Well, LCA, I'm Jeff Fargo, and I'm one of the moderators. And I'm one of those guys that if you post something snarky, I'm the one that bans you or bans your post.
Good to know.
I just watch, I watch like The Seven Samurai and then just go nuts. And today I have the pleasure of being with Dan Stewart, who is the founder, CEO, chef, cook, bottle washer of Happy Grasshopper. And just to circle back, I'm in Las Vegas, Nevada. Dan is in Tampa, Florida, and where I love Tampa, great town. And so we're going to chat about, first of all, Dan, I love the name Happy Grasshopper. Oh my gosh, that's jamming, my friend. That is jamming. So tell me about yourself. Tell us about what got you into the real estate, business and lead gen and nurturing and everything else.
Yeah, sure. So just a little background. I have the really good fortune to be a serial entrepreneur. So, that sounds super fancy, right? I've started 7 companies, which sounds so glamorous. And yet I've had some massive dumpster fires along the way. Things will fall apart, right? You've got to make mistakes and fail several times until you really figure out what works. And, I like you see some awards on the wall behind me. I started a geotechnical contracting company. We scaled really big. Legislation changes caused that business to fail. I built a CRM company. I sold it. And after the exit, I was really focused on the fact that we had so many people who bought our service to use it, and only about 18% ever did. Like, have you done that? Have you bought software and not used it?
All the time.
Everybody
All
does
the
it
time.
at some point.
Yes.
So we thought, well, we've got to have a better plan. We've got to make it easy for them to use it. One, which is just a design element, but we were sending content for people, right? The problem was they didn't know what to say. So at Happy Grasshopper, we thought, well, let's figure that out for them. Let's hire writers. Let's create a content schedule. Let's build this. Let's push it out in the world and see what happens. And that was a decade ago, literally. So I just feel really privileged to get to wake up every day and do what I get to do. And I see we got people, jumping in here from all over the place. So go ahead and call out for us in the chat where you're from, who you are. Make sure you can see us and hear us. It's awesome. I see Rosa in Houston. Hi, Rosa. Christopher in Birmingham. Like me some Birmingham. Bruce and Pat. Ding, ding, ding.
Palm Springs, Ventura. This is all very nice. Oh, then Greenville, Delaware, sunny but chilly. Maya is there. Yeah, now we're getting more to be honest stuff. Sunny but cold in Colorado. Tiffany, that's great.
We're in Colorado, right, Tiffany. I love that state.
Colorado's gorgeous. That's God's
another
country.
Vegas person in the house. Yeah.
God from Vegas. So Dan, tell me, first of all, how did you come up with the name Happy Grasshopper?
Well, I didn't.
I love it.
Yeah, I didn't. So, I was really wanted to start something, but I didn't exactly know what. I just had an idea. I wanted to validate it. And I called my good friend, my former employee, Celeste Nelson. And I said, hey, I've got an idea. I want to experiment with it. She goes, I know what I want to call it. Can we call it Happy Grasshopper? And I said, absolutely. I love the name. So that's where it came from. And it's been such a great thing for us because people ask, picture us at a trade show, right? You've got booth. Everything says what it is. People stop and they go, Happy what? Like, what is this all about? I need to know more. So it's been kind of good. It's been good.
And how long have you guys been up and running? Have you been up and running?
We are 10 years old. Yeah, just turned 10, which is crazy to me. It does not feel like anywhere close to 10 years. Not at all. And I know just looking in the chat, I see some names here I recognize. So, for those of you who are here, members of Happy Grasshopper, thank you. Like, it's an honor and a privilege to serve you guys for sure. And I know that everybody who's here right now is here for a reason, right? You guys want to work on how to affordably grow your real estate business. So that's what I want to talk about. I'm real eager to get to work because we have a ton of things to cover. Would that be cool?
I love it. Let's jump right in. And,
right,
and anybody that has questions, feel free to jump in. We'll answer them immediately or as fast as we possibly can. You know, no problem.
Okay, sweet. So I'm going to share my screen here. First thing you're going to see is, I don't know, can you see this from Vegas? It's just like pretty standard, pretty standard backdrop. So let's dive in here and start covering some content. So first things first, we're going to watch the chat constantly throughout the session. So all webinars you ever attend, it tends to be like sell, 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 sell. That is not what this session is, guys. This is for you. So, you know, hopefully you're somewhere you can take notes and you'll be ready to ask questions. There is no sales pitch here today. That is not what this is. So if you're here because you want to know more about Happy Grasshopper, you're hoping like, I want to see what, you know, what they can do to help me in 2021. That's awesome. Like, I love you for that. And yet you're in the wrong place, right? So just call us. There's the number on the screen. If you don't want to talk to anyone and you just want to book a tour so you can see what it's all about, just go here and do that, okay? So this session is not selling Happy Grasshopper. That is not why we're here. This session is about how to affordably grow your real estate business, right? So can we have a chat about that? Is that cool?
I love it. I love it. Yes, please.
Okay, so you know, first thing we've got to do is talk about why this is the right question to ask. Okay, because no matter like where you are in your business, no matter what you've achieved already, what you hope to achieve in the future, this is the real question that you got to wrap your arms around. So, you know, if you're a brand new agent, let's imagine that person. Maybe you don't have a lot of resources. Maybe it's really important you get some closings lined up quickly because you've got just a finite amount of money to keep you in the business for a little while. You need to know how to affordably grow your real estate business. And now let's imagine that person who's a few years in, right? They've built a database. They know their trade. They can serve people well and effectively. They're getting referrals. They're doing everything right. And yet it seems like as hard as they work, they just can't get ahead. Like, what's that all about? You know, does that sound familiar? If you've been in that position, can you let me know in the chat? Say yes if you've been in that position. It'll come in. It'll take a sec here. That happens, right? And if you're say you're building a team, like I've heard this story. I've seen this person run into this too many times. You've had success as an agent. You've got more opportunity than you can comfortably handle yourself. It's time to get some leverage. You got to hire some people. You've got to expand. And then you find yourself a year, 2 years, 3 years down the road, and you're going, I was making more money as a solo agent, and I wasn't working as hard.
Yeah.
Like, ouch, right? I mean, there's no way to do that makes any sense. It's not what you earn. It's what you... Come on, say it with me. I know you know the answer. It's not what you earn, it's what you keep, right? So, you know, I love chasing goals. I love having lots of transactions. I love building GCI as high as a skyscraper. And yet if you just spend it all, what's the point?
Right.
What is the point, right? We've got to find a way to affordably grow our business, no matter what phase our business is in. So if we're growing a national or international brokerage, we need to know how to do that affordably, just as we need to know how to do that on day one, okay? Now, along the way, we're gonna run into some problems. So whoever has bought leads here, raise your hand for me if you've bought tons of leads that did not convert. Say yes in the chat. I wanna see that. Yes.
Everybody should say yes. Everybody's gonna say yes. Everyone's going to say yes. Yeah.
Tiffany says nope. That's awesome.
Tiffany says no.
Jorge says yes. Bruce says yes. I mean, of course, right? You get to a point where you're like, hey, maybe, you know, I really do need to do that. Maybe I do need to buy all these leads and build it. But it's so easy to spend all of your profit on leads that then don't convert. You know, it can be a really painful experience. There's lots of experiences in attempting to grow your business. It can be painful. And I mean, I know this firsthand, right? I've built companies that have failed. That sucks. That's a horrible thing to have to experience. And yet, you know, if you learn from it, it's not a total loss. So I'm going to share a quote with you. This is a quote from Jerry Seinfeld that I really love. He says that pain is knowledge rushing in to fill a gap.
That's great.
Like, how cool is that, right? You get up in the middle of the night, you're trying to get to the bathroom, you bang your shin on the edge of the bed. That's knowledge about where the edge of the bed is, rushing in to fill that gap in your knowledge, right? So, you know, think of all these things you've tried in your real estate business that haven't worked. You know, think of all the lead systems you've bought into. Think of all the different ways you've considered growing your business, how you've thrown piles of cash onto the bonfire in the pursuit of more and more and more, and it just hasn't worked. Like, that's knowledge rushing in to fill the gap. You know those things don't work right now. So I want to hear from you what those things are. Like right now, today, this moment in time, as we're just about to enter 2021, what's hurting in your real estate business? Go ahead and tell me in the chat. Let's talk about those things.
From the experience that I have in working with real estate, and Dominique has said consistency, and I was going to say lack of focus. I'd say 99.9% of all realtors have ADHD or ADD to some extent, and it's here, instead of being, you know, really just disciplined and being more tactical with your time. You know, I think that NAR should have a medical plan that they literally are doing like a $5 copay for Adderall for anybody that's a licensed realtor. That would help increase their business, you know, tenfold. So I would say it's consistency and follow-up is what Christopher says. You know, Tiffany, one pillar in my lead gen referral, and not many moved during the pandemic. So, you know, we also have a global pandemic that we're dealing with. Focus. Jorge says focus on lead generation. So yeah. Yeah,
these are good feedback. So keep them coming in. Like,
they're great.
We want to talk about these things, right? Scott says not having a system that works. I mean, how frustrating is that? It's 2020, for God's sakes. The tech should be the easy part.
Yep.
It should be the easy part.
Yep.
You know, there are companies that land a rocket from space on a barge, like, and we can't figure out how to keep in touch with people. That's pathetic. Like, it's unacceptable in 2020. So I'm going to go back and look through these, right? We're seeing some trends, focus on lead gen, having too narrow focus where you've got that one pillar, Tiffany, consistency and follow-ups, what Christopher says, lack of inventory and lack of listings. I mean, 2020 has been a weird year. Back in March and April, so many of us were, you know, the sky's falling, like what's going to happen to our businesses? And now we look back and we see that it's been just a tremendous year. You know, a lot of our clients are reporting that 2020 has been one of their best years ever.
Correct. Despite
the pandemic, it's just been, you know, going great guns, right? Dominique says, we know how, we just don't execute, right? And I love what you're saying, Jeff, about ADHD, because I mean, whether or not you've been diagnosed, like, it's a human condition, right? We get distracted by a million things because we live at a time when everyone's constantly demanding our attention.
Yeah.
You know, attention's a currency today, right? And if you're not attracting attention to what you're doing, you're not going to do as well as if you were. Right? That's just the way it works. That's a truth. So all of these things, they tend to come to a head at different periods in time, right? So here we are at the end of the year, which means that a good portion of the world is saying it's time to set those New Year's resolutions. So, you know, say yes if you're working on your New Year's resolutions. So if you are, you need to know there's some risks here, right? A resolution is something that most people don't even understand. It doesn't mean to write down something you kind of want to do. It means you're resolved to do it. You're 100% committed to doing it.
Absolutely.
You're not, you know, halfway in the boat, you're 100% in with both feet.
Yeah.
Right. So don't just write down things you'd like, write down your musts, what you absolutely must do. And also write down the things you absolutely won't do, no matter what. Okay. If you do those things and you break it down to really small components, you can break something that we need to talk about. And that thing we need to talk about, I affectionately call the cycle of suck.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, the cycle of suck is a real thing. And it goes a little bit like this. You start out with some intentions, right? I'm going to do this. It's going to work out great. After such and such amount of time, I'm going to have this much profit. That's going to change my life in this direction. I'm going to be able to experience things I want to experience. I'm going to have a sense of security. I'm not going to feel the boot on my neck all the time about having to earn a living. Like, oh, it's going to be great. And this time, this time it's going to work, right? And I know it's going to work this time because somebody has told me what the actions are that I need to take. So if I just do exactly what these things say, it's all going to work out great. And then we enter reality, right? Reality comes and kicks us in the face. Reality shows up and says, hey, guess what? Stuff breaks. It's not always easy. Like, I really wanted to keep in touch with everyone. I picked up the phone and I called, but I had to leave voicemail. Or, I called this one person and they were rude. Oh, man, that hurts. I saw a listing that should have been mine go to someone else. Like, I drove home and there was another agent sign
in my neighborhood.
My neighbor's house.
In my neighborhood. Those bastards. How dare they?
Right. It drives us absolutely nuts. And the worst part of this whole cycle is that it doesn't happen once. It's on repeat. Like, it plays over
Amen.
and over and over and over.
Amen, brother. Preach.
Yeah. So, like, is this your career? Raise your hand. It has absolutely been my career. It's been my experience of life that there are periods of time where we're stuck in this cycle and we can't figure out how to get out. You know, we just can't. We think we're bringing the right people onto our team. We think we're buying the right leads from the right source. We think we've got the right follow-up strategy. We think we've got. And yet there are challenges that we're always going to show up. So, you know, would it be cool if we found a way to break up this cycle?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, at least I got one yes. That's good.
I'll say heck yes. I'll keep it PG rated and say heck yes.
Okay. All right. So let's get to work breaking up this cycle. It's first we need to get on a different path, right? We can't stay on this path and expect a different result. That would be insanity, right? If we do the same thing over and over and it doesn't work, we got to do something else. We have to. And that is something we call the path of mastery. So the very first thing on the path of mastery is to really narrow your focus. Okay. Now there's a lot that goes into this. And there's a lot of good coaching out there about this. You know, that the coaches who teach things like time blocking, that's a way you narrow your focus. You say during this hour on this day, I'm doing this activity and nothing else, right? That's good. And yet, like, how many times will you have something else pop up that will cause you not to keep that your own commitment with yourself? Like, it's so easy to get pushed off of your own path. So, you know, you've got to be really disciplined about that, and you've got to take measured action. So I like to measure stuff, right? One of my favorite quotes, what gets measured gets managed. It's been a truth, right? If we measure our bank accounts, they tend to grow. If we measure our belt lines, they tend to shrink. If we want better results, we got to measure the actions that we're taking towards achieving those results, and we must hold them accountable.
Yeah.
So, you know, here's a practice for everyone to do as we close this year. Look back and say, here's the stuff I will never do again. I just won't. Like, it was a dumpster fire. I'm not going there again. Here are the things I do that I want to do less of. Here are the things I do that I want to do more of. And here are the things that in a perfect world, if I had no other commitments, this is my highest value. This is where I'd focus all my time and attention. Like, if you're really clear about what those things are, it gets a lot easier to not get dragged off your path, right? And that's where something beautiful happens, and that's predictable results. So this is the thing we're all looking for. Your business should operate like a machine where you put $1 in and you get $1 plus out, right? Now, some things you put $1 in and you get like $1.10 out, and you go, oh, hey, it's working great. And you got to feed so many dollars in to get even $1 back. And other things you put $1 in and you get $100 back. You're like, whoa, I need to do that again. We tend to chalk those things up for luck, right? That was that surprise buyer who wanted the multi-million-dollar home when you haven't been working on those traditionally, right? That's the, you were there early for the open house and a neighbor walked over and said they were thinking of listing their home. Like, things like this happen where luck meets preparation, right? So you need to really be prepared. You gotta be prepared to win. You have to expect it. That's part of creating these predictable results. So for what it's worth, guys, I am coming to you from my horse farm in Tampa, Florida. Due to COVID, we've closed our offices. I now work here in my detached garage, 150 feet from my back door. I love my life. I love what I get to do every day. And it's only by walking a path of discipline that allows me to do that. So, 2021 is practically here. It's time you just give yourself the gift of doing this. And it's not as hard as you might think it is. Like, we got to let that myth go. If you've tried something in the past and it didn't work, forgive yourself for it. Like, if you said, I'm going to run every single day, I'm going to do push-ups or sit-ups, or I'm going to eat right, and you didn't, just let it go. You can absolutely, absolutely do that. So now that we've got this big chunk out of the way and we're talking about walking the path of mastery, we need to talk about what really works. Okay. Now here's the really great news. You already know. You already know what really works. And I know this because every year when I'm on stages all across the country and I ask a question to the audience, I see about 70% of the hands go up. Okay. So I'm going to ask that question for you now. If the majority of your business comes from past clients and Sphere, say yes for me in the chat. I want to see it. If the majority of your business comes from past clients and Sphere, yes, 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 yes. I mean, we're going to see these keep flying by, right? We see this keep flying by.
Yep.
So just look at the data. It's right here. It's obvious. It's in front of your face. You can see these answers just like I can. Right? People will do business with you because you're awesome. That's the only reason they're referring people to you. They like you. You got to double down on that, right? You got to really focus on being more awesome. So your solution, your one thing that you should buy and put into use every single day is your commitment to be an awesome human being. How simple is that, right? I mean, wow. You don't have to subscribe to anything. You don't have to pull a bunch of money out of the bank. You don't have to take a course. You don't have to get a certification. You don't need a license. You just simply need to be awesome. The challenge, if there is one, is figuring out what that actually means and why you should actually do it. So first is that everybody wants to work with awesome people. Like, if I could work with someone who's awesome, I will choose to do that over working with someone who's not awesome, right? You are competing in a field where you're ranked right neck and neck with used car people. Like, that's not me throwing rocks. That's just me stating a fact.
That's the truth.
My best friends in the world are real estate professionals, and I freaking love you guys. And yet, the general public, they're tarring the whole industry with a few of the bozos that they've met along the way. So, rather than running from that, embrace it, because it gives you a really ugly, muddy background that you can stand out against. Like, you can contrast their expectations really easily, right? So even better than having people who want to work with awesome people, the benefit is that everybody likes to talk about awesome people. Oh my God, my agent was so amazing. Here's what they did that was just great. Like, wow. when you get this right, when you create that sense of raving fandom in your past clients and sphere, they refuse to let their friends and family use another agent. Like, you want to be talked about by these people who are really qualified to recommend you. I mean, that's a great lead, right? That's a great way to grow your business, and not just because of the potential monetary reward, but because if you really like these people you serve, they're going to refer more people that you're going to really like.
Exactly.
You know, that's way better than working with people you can't stand.
Tiffany has a great point. She said, we need to be better at displaying our awesomeness and value.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I mean, absolutely. Absolutely, you do. And, you know, the great bonus here is it's free. You don't have to pay for this. You can just do this. You can just be this. And the world needs you to do that. Like, let's acknowledge the world needs more awesome people. So please, if you're listening to this and you have the capacity to be awesome, why would you ever be anything else? Like, do that. Be that amazing people for other people. It's so important. The challenge that you'll have is it's hard sometimes to look at yourself and say, I'm awesome. Like, how do you tell people? How do you tell these strangers, these leads, that you're amazing? That's a challenge. Like, no one's really comfortable having that conversation. So my bonus tip for you would be to let your past clients and sphere tell the story. You know, if you really want the secret to lead conversion, these strangers that you're generating on the internet, let them learn what your past clients and sphere love about you, and you'll see that more of them choose you. That's what happens, right? So let's talk about what shows up as awesome. I love it, Christopher. I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and gosh darn it, people like me. They do. And I think we're probably both old enough, Jeff, to know that reference. That's good.
Stuart Smalley? Was it
Stuart Smalley, exactly right. Exactly right. So if we were to ask 1,000 people what awesome was, they come up with all sorts of different answers, right? So I want to hear it from you guys that are listening now. What's awesome? How do you show up as awesome? When someone is awesome to you, what have they done that makes you go, oh, wow, that person's awesome?
Yeah.
So let's hear this. I want to see these answers come in the chat.
Is it the fact that let's see, the average ones that realtors will say is they know the market. They're very good with follow-up. They experience, in a certain niche or in a certain geographic area. Tiffany says, the golden rule: treat others as you want to be treated.
That's good.
Pat says, be super helpful and informative.
Yeah, do what they say and anticipate needs.
It's great, Patrick. It's a good one.
Go the extra mile, right? Keeping your word when no one else is looking. Love that, Scott. That's great, right? So guess what? Every single one of you is right. Again, like, this is not rocket science. You know how to show up as awesome. There's all sorts of ways that you can do this. And what's really great is that there are a few ways that if you do these things almost universally, people will think you're awesome. So I want to highlight these. This is stuff you should write down. If you want to be regarded as awesome, lift other people up. Be seen as someone who's positive, optimistic. Don't be complaining, right? I mean, yeah, there's always something to complain about. There's not always someone to make people feel better about what's going on, right? So be that person, and other people will think you're awesome, okay? Now, Scott, you absolutely nailed it here. You deserve a gold star. Like, awesome people do what they say they're going to do. They keep their word without exception, right? And I got to tell you, 2 years ago, I learned something that changed my life. It was such a minor little thing, seemingly, and yet it had a major impact. So, with your permission, I want to just share a little bit about this, right?
Absolutely.
Because most of us live our lives where our behavior tells us we can't even trust ourselves. Like, that's a little bit of a harsh reality, but if you've ever said, oh, I'm not going to eat dessert tonight, and then you have dessert, like, you're teaching your brain that you can't be trusted, right? So I'm going to encourage you to start with something really small. Like, I'm going to pick up my socks off the bedroom floor and put them in the hamper. That's a small thing, and I'm going to do it. And I promise you, just a small little thing like that can shift the whole tide. Just start changing that momentum with something small. It can be really huge, right? And the way that shows up later, like when you know for certain, when you tell somebody you're going to do something that you actually are going to do that thing, you enter everything with such power. Like the confidence that's just oozing out of you is undeniable, right? People will know that you can be trusted at very high levels. That's an amazing thing. So thank you, Scott, for nailing that one. Next up is expressing gratitude. Okay. You gotta understand that there's a human need to be validated. And every single one of us just feels great about ourselves when somebody recognizes something we're doing well, right? So if you can consistently show up as the kind of person who recognizes stuff that people are putting their time and attention into, it goes a long way, right? Now, this is different than like the cheesy sales tactic of walking in somebody's office and going, oh, you've got guitars on the wall. That's great. You must play guitar, right? That's kind of an obvious thing, right? What you want to look at is not their stuff, not their appearance, their behavior, right? Look at how they're showing up in the world and express gratitude for that. So like I can think of some high net worth individuals who are struggling with the idea that they might actually spend that much money on a house or a car, right? Or whatever it is. They grew up without having lots of prosperity. They created prosperity in their own lives. Now it's time to spend that. They can have that moment, right? And yet if you validate them in that environment, if you can say to them, I think it's really wonderful, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer and Seller, that you've arrived at a place in your life where you deserve to get what you want. My job is to help you get that. Like, it feels much less like you're trying to sell them than it does like you're trying to serve them. And that's what really, really wins. Really, really wins.
Acts of service.
Yeah, absolutely. Like the 5 love languages, right? Acts of service is one of them.
Acts of service, man. That's the best.
I mean, this is so simple. Keeping your word, being positive and optimistic, and expressing gratitude to people on a regular basis. Like these all seem like things that are designed to attract other people, but really you can't do these things without it changing who you are in a really positive way. So, I'm not a big fan of the fake it till you make it culture.
No.
And yet I would say, if you have to fake these things, fake it for a little bit, and all of a sudden you won't be faking anymore. Like you'll step into this reality once you experience it. So these are a few things that are really important to grab hold of. Like intellectually, emotionally, we need to own these few simple things, these few simple activities every day. Like Patrick is saying, he highly recommends the 5-minute rule to everyone. Like we can all commit to calling, cleaning our house, etc., for just 5 minutes. And usually momentum takes over after that. And 3 hours later, you're still going, organizing your leads, right? So whatever it might be, it's right. Like we need a tipping point here. We don't need to move the mountain right now. We just need to take a small positive action so we can start to build that momentum. So there's something that I've realized over the years. And just to give you some perspective, my company's a decade old. Today we serve over 10,000 real estate professionals. We're nurturing over 16 million contacts for real estate folk.
Wow.
And that gives us hundreds of millions of data points that we can look at every year, right? And the thing that we see over and over and over again is that the size of your database is not important, right? The number of contacts you have makes absolutely no difference. What matters more than anything else are the relationships that you have with the people in your database. So, where I would encourage everyone to focus is building a small list. Like, let's get 100 solid contacts together. Like people, if we walked into the grocery store, they'd know your name. Jeff, how are you? Like 100 people who actually know you. Wow, if you have that, you can build an empire.
You're like Norm on Cheers, which we're dating ourselves. Half the people are like, Who's
Never heard
Norm
of it.
and what the heck is Cheers?
I don't even know anyone named Norm.
Yeah.
It's such an old name. Yeah. Crazy.
But for those of you that are our age, that's what you want.
Yeah. You want to have that group of people who is aware of the value you bring to the world, right? And there's a plan. There's a really simple plan you can follow to create that. So, let me give you some examples here. I've served agents who started with as few as 15 contacts in their database, but they were people who really knew them, right? And I've had agents who literally load 10, 15, 20,000 contacts into the database. And I've seen the guy with 15 real relationships have more success than the people with thousands and thousands of strangers, right? So, believe me, if you start small and you build with quality, you can go much, much further than you probably expect that you can. So I want to break down the plan that will help you get there, right? So we need to do a little math together, right? And again, this is carved out of hundreds of millions of data points. If we do the math and we crunch it, if you have 100 people in your database who truly know you, that's good for 12 transactions per year. If they don't know you, if they're like 100 internet leads, that's good for a maximum of about 2 transactions per year, right? So it makes a lot more sense to spend our time and energy and effort on the relationships we already have than it does to constantly be trying to, compete with everybody else who's going after these same strangers that are out there, okay? So the reason there's such a big range in those numbers from 2 all the way to 12 is the relationship. That's it. Like, if we could weigh it, right, that would be how much it weighs. If we could deposit it in the bank, that would be how much we could deposit. That's the math of the value of that relationship. So, you definitely want to focus on relationships. So, I don't know everybody who's watching this right now. I don't know who everybody who's on the call. And yet I would guess there are some people here who are real lead gen folks, right? Now, I have a ton of clients who are lead gen folks. I've got no beef with that whatsoever, provided your eyes are open and you know what the math looks like when you're going in. So, NAR produces a report every year. Like, we're looking at 90 million digital leads per year for about 5.5 million transactions per year. And, we see how these numbers change over time. If we go back to 2014, there were about 4 million digital leads for about 5 million actual transactions. So today, a digital lead is not being seen just by you, right? They're registering in lots of places, typically about 10 places total. And, if you're using, say, an IDX provider, great, that's awesome. I love that you're doing that. Just know that you're not the only person sending them price change alerts or property search updates. They're getting all the same stuff from your competition. So you've got to really think about how you're going to stand out in that sea of communication there, right? And that's where you need to lean into really being awesome. Yeah. So, going a little deeper here, if we contrast leads with past clients, we also see per NAR that 89% of homeowners want to work with the same agent again. And that, nearly all of them don't, right? And that's often pointed back as, oh, bad agent, you're not doing your job. Like, how could you let that happen? I don't like to look at it that way, because really what it's a representation of is that guys like me on the tech side, we're not doing a good enough job of making it easy for you to stay in touch with all the people you serve. Like, I feel the fingers pointed at me here, right? We should have a super easy way for people to get into your database, and a super easy way for you to communicate with them over time, right? So, that's what I said about building 10 years ago. And, it's been my life's work for a decade. It's what I look at every single day, and I feel privileged to get to do. So today in this session, I just want to empower you to get out there and do this. Like, the plan that you should run for these 100 people in your database that absolutely know who you are, that you like and want to do more business with, you need to touch them 41 times per year, okay? So we'll break that down. We need 17 non-salesy emails, 17 of them. That's once every 3 weeks that are not about real estate. That's hard for a lot of you. I know, like, real estate's always on your mind. You always want to talk about real estate. You're terrified people will forget you're in real estate, and yet they won't. They won't. And they actually don't want to hear about real estate unless they're, thinking of buying, selling, or investing, right? So the data is super, super clear here. This one segment, past clients and sphere, not leads, you'll do better not talking about real estate with them than you will constantly sending them real estate content. Okay? Then we need to supplement these emails with text and with voicemail drops. So these work like like an ABC, an attack by combination, jab, jab, hook, right? That's what's going on here. So we've got a holiday. Well, there needs to be an email about that. There needs to be a ringless voicemail drop about that. There needs to be a text message about that, right? If it's their birthday, if it's their transaction anniversary, there should be a planned sequence of communication that goes around that. And, one of my favorite examples of this would be a birthday message. So, I'll pick you out, Tiffany. You just asked a question, and I'll get to that. Let's say it's your birthday a week from now. Well, I want you to get a text message from me today that says, "Hey, Tiffany, it's me, Dan Stewart. Am I the first person to wish you a happy birthday?" ? And you're like, "Oh, I know Dan. Hey, yeah, he is the first person to wish me a happy birthday," right? And then on your birthday, I want you to get a ringless voicemail drop from me where, I go into the system, I record one birthday message that goes a little something like, "Hey, it's me, Dan Stewart. Happy birthday. Wow, like you're getting old. Anyway, I hope you're good. Would love to chat with you when things calm down for you. Hope you're doing something fun for your birthday. Let's catch up. You can call me at blah, 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 blah," right? You record that once, and then the system just sends it out to everybody on their actual birthday. So now you're not competing with, the 400 people on Facebook who are telling them happy birthday the same day. Like they're hearing from you a week earlier, and then they're hearing your voice on their birthday, right? That's a nice way to do it. So I'm going to show you an example. Tiffany, she's asking to see examples of the 17 emails. I'll show you that in a moment. But first we want to talk about how to even implement a plan like this, right? So everybody's got tech. Like tech shouldn't be the problem. It's really what to say that's the issue. And before we can even get that handled, we have to tackle organization, right? Just getting a database organized for messaging is a big challenge for a lot of people. So, let's just recognize your contacts are in a lot of places already. They're in your phone, they're in your email, they're in your MLS, some are in your calendar. You've got them in this CRM and that CRM and the other CRM, and a bunch of different lead sources. They get spread out in all these different places. And if you're going to communicate with all these people effectively, you've got to bring a level of organization to it. So we're going to start by organizing every single human being on the planet right now, in this very moment. It's going to be really simple because there's just two groups. They know us or they don't, period. Like that's how I want you to think about your database. Does this person know me or not? If they don't know me, I probably don't have much influence, right? If they do know me, I can probably work on having more influence, right? So all these people, no matter which group they're in, they're going to buy, sell, and invest in real estate on their own time frame. Like you are never in control of their time frame. That's always up to them. All you can do is communicate with these people continuously, right? From the time you meet them until the time you no longer want to communicate with them. Because most people, most of the time, are not ready to have a real estate transaction. They're just not. So, having non-salesy content is really, really critical in this process. Because if I'm not ready to have another transaction for 5 years and all I hear from you is real estate, you're training me to ignore everything you send me because I'm not ready to hear from you about real estate. Oh, it's from that person again. I don't even want to, I know what that is. I'm not paying attention, right? So having these two groups, let's recognize past clients and Sphere know you. These other groups likely don't. They likely don't, right? So we want to communicate differently with people who know us than people who don't. And when we look into your specific database, we look at how we're going to grow it. We need to recognize that past clients and Sphere are going to have more lifetime value for you than any other segment that you might build contacts in, right? And it's because they know you. All these other people don't know you until you give them a reason to want to continue to communicate with you, which means build a relationship with them. You're in competition with everyone else, right? Once you've got that relationship, that's where you really close that gap. So this is where we can start to answer your question, Tiffany, of what do we send, right? We got to have the right kind of content, and we have to deliver that content in the right way. You know, just sending email is great, but it'd be a lot better if you also sent text, voicemail, and handwritten cards, right? I might love to get a text from you. I might be irritated to get a text from you, right? You're going to have people who are more comfortable communicating with you in different ways. So, you know, for text, use a mass SMS service. A lot of platforms have them. Mine certainly does. And it lets you write messages like this to strangers who've just registered on your website, and you actually get replies. Like a lead comes in, your system says, oh, is this Jeff? Right? And Jeff goes, yeah, who's this? Right? So we've got a conversation going on, right? With voicemail, like use Sly Broadcast, use my service, use any service you can find that does this, and send messaging to people according to the relationship. So if I'm a brand new lead and I drop into your system, you know, don't send me, hey, my name's Dan Stewart, the listing agent, and your zip code, and I'm the blah, 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 blah. Like, oh, nobody wants that. Nope. Make it sound human, like you called them and just left a voicemail. You'll get much more engagement than you will otherwise if you're recording radio commercials. So Scott, ringless voicemail. It means that their phone does not ring. They look down and they go, oh, I missed a call from Scott. And just like with every other voicemail, they can either read it on their phone, they can listen to it, they can click a button and call you right back at your regular phone number. So a lot of agents started using this technology to farm neighborhoods, and they failed massively because there's no relationship there. And yet if you record a birthday message and send it out, you've recorded it once, every one of your contacts gets that message. They feel great about it, and you've got a limited amount of work to make that happen, right? So I'd much rather get calls back from people than every day have to go, oh, was it their birthday? Oh, I guess I have to call that person. Like, let's leverage tech. It's 2020. We can do this. So handwritten cards. Now, our service, we do this thing that I'm really proud of. We have robots that hold actual pens, and they write cards that look like this.
That's awesome.
I mean, if you look at the text here on the card, you can see where the ink is absorbed differently.
Yep.
You see where in words here like happy, the P's don't match. The S's in Grasshopper, the P's here, they don't match. It's very important. You know, otherwise, there's lots of companies that send out cards. Some of them look like a machine wrote it instead of a human being. And I have a core belief that if it looks like marketing, it's really safe for people to ignore. So I don't want my stuff to look like marketing. And now, Tiffany, I'll show you that real example of email that works. We're gonna take a look at an actual agent, client of ours in Houston, Texas, named Randall Martin. And what we do is our writers create messaging, and then you get to choose from it. So here recently, there was an interesting news article about Blockbuster Video, of all things. And we thought it was interesting, so we turned it into an email. And you'll see the subject line reads, Blockbuster finally pivots. All our members get to rate the messages, so that's what the hearts are there for. And it reads, did you see this? Blockbuster's last store is now an Airbnb. Ha! They've set it up with 90s furniture, TV, VCR, and all the movies you can watch for $4 per night. And call me crazy, but I actually kind of love this. It makes me wish they'd paid more attention to Netflix and pivoted sooner. Speaking of real estate changes, do you know anyone who's thinking of moving, or even someone we could convince to move if they got enough money for their home? Okay. So moment of truth, guys. Would you send this? Yes or no? Tell me in the chat. I want to see. So Dominique says yes. All right. We'll get more answers coming in here. Pat says yes. Jorge says yes. Jim says yes.
Yeah, it's great.
Yes, yes, yes. Helen says yes. I see lots of people saying yes. Usually we've got some people who say no. Like, I'm scared of that message. It doesn't say real estate. Like, where are my listings? I get it, right? So this is good, though. I see abso-freaking-lutely. I love your word choice. And I would open it if I received it. Thanks, Dominique. Scott, that's my age group, right? I mean, there's something to be said about a non-salesy email. It's written in real time. Like, this story is just happening. It's not something that's years old, right? And it shows the reader that we care enough to stay in touch with them without always selling real estate. Now, we are professional copywriters. So notice what we've done here at the end. Like, I know many of you have been in training classes where some well-meaning individual has taught you that the best way to grow your business is to ask for referrals. And you literally ask for referrals. Like, you print on the back of your business card, the highest compliment I can receive is a referral from someone. And you go, oh my gosh, I'm asking for referrals. And yet really what you're doing is confusing people. Like, they've got to think too hard to know what you mean when you ask for a referral. So just ask them if they know anyone who's thinking of moving, and you'll see all of a sudden they do. Like, that's what happened here. So Randall's reply to this message, your last sentence got me. I've seen wildly different valuations. We've been talking about possibly moving. Are you able to give me an idea what we could list for? Like, how cool is that, right? That's awesome. So Randall posted in his brokerage's Facebook group. After he got that reply, he got a second email from a client that closed in 2017. And he's talking about, you know, if I get the buy sell on both of these, if I help them buy a home and sell their home, like, that's between $1.5 and $2 million of business from one message. Like, that's just 2 replies from one message. Like, you don't have to have thousands and thousands of people following you to build a fantastic business. Randall does more than 50 transactions per year in Houston. Like, it's a great market, great price points. He's doing great. So, you know, to put this plan in place, you need some technology. And, you know, the really cool thing is that we've built the technology, right? And Tristan and I, we worked together to create LCA Nurture. So this is a special version of Happy Grasshopper that's available just for members of LCA. So if you're a LabCoatAgents member, you are going to be invited to use this at some point in time. Like, we've started slow, we've gated, we got a couple hundred folks in there. It's going incredibly well for them. And we've got room to squeeze a few more people in before we run out of some super cool special I'll tell you about. So if you choose to use LCA Nurture, you need to expect that you will get replies almost instantly. When you send out messaging, people will reply. They'll reply really, really quickly. And, you know, the data that we're seeing here as we've rolled this out is really, really compelling. Almost all the content we send is getting delivered. The open rate for email is nearly double the industry average. The reply rates are super, super strong for email and for text. And that creates incredible value for you, like incredible value. Think of what Randall's got. That's nearly 60 grand in commission from one simple little email message. Like, you can do this. You don't need to hesitate here. You can absolutely do this. So I'm going to break down the value here for you, right? NAR says the average per side is 6 grand. I'm telling you, there are 12 transactions for every 100 people in there. That's 72 grand of value for a whopping, I mean, you won't even believe it, right? It's ridiculously inexpensive to use our service. It's just $47 to start and $470 per year. That includes all 41 touches for up to 250 contacts, right? So that ROI is super strong. The ROI is like $11.60 for just one transaction for every dollar you put in. And, you know, when it comes to what you could pull out of this, if you got 12 transactions at $72K in GCI, that's $139 for every dollar you put in. So like I talked about at the beginning of the webinar, most of us we're putting $1 in, we get $1.10 out, and we feel like we're winning. No, if you really want to win, you've got to look at preserving your time and your effort for things that are actually working, right? So I'm going to give you a URL here, happygrasshopper.com/meet-LCA-nurture. We'll go ahead and share that. I see that Tessa's already put it in the chat here. Yep. You can learn all about this. You can see more samples there. And you can also take advantage of our special bonus. So last thing I'll cover here is that when you choose the annual plan, you're getting Revaluate built in free. So Revaluate is a really cool service that predicts when people are going to move based on data that's shared publicly, right? So if somebody graduates, files for divorce, is getting a marriage license, like they show up as someone who's likely to be prepared to sell their home. So all of that is included in LCA Nurture when you buy the annual plan. And that's available here for you at happygrasshopper.com/meet-LCA-nurture. So I know I raced at the end here. I crammed it in right at the last minute.
Awesome stuff. Boom.
Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff here. So
awesome stuff, Dan.
One last thing, anybody who has any questions, please reach out. We're in the group. You can ask questions there. You can email me, dan@happygrasshopper.com. Jeff, thank you so much for hosting today. I really appreciate that. And,
my pleasure.
I look forward to continuing the conversation.
My pleasure. Thanks, everyone, for your questions, for your comments. Dan, this stuff's been absolutely fantastic. Thank you for your time. Yeah. And great platform. Great platform, my friend.
Awesome. Appreciate it. So everybody have a great and happy new year. Know that you've got what it takes to succeed. You just have to reach out to people and start conversations.
Go kick some ass. Just do something.
Let's go be awesome. We can do this. Let's do it.
Thanks, everybody.